Chapter 1. If you believe fate can be cruel, and editors crueler, hit subscribe. I'm about to confess a sin that rewrote more than a book. I'm Lila Hart, 26, professional book editor, part-time plant assassin, and full-time fixer of broken romances. Officially, I structure arcs and clean commas for a boutique literary house tucked between a vegan donut shop and a locksmith in downtown Manhattan. Unofficially, I commit quiet crimes with a red pen. I give women better endings than the ones their authors left them with. The girl who forgives the guy who ruined her career? Not on my watch. The heroine who chooses destiny over dignity? Cute, no. My edits are stealth, surgical, precise, and always deniable. If love is a draft, consent is the final version. So when my boss slid a new manuscript across my desk, The Winter Oath by Cassian Drayke, golden boy of literary fiction, I pretended I wasn't impressed. His novels sell in frightening numbers to people who underline sentences and then post photos of them on the internet. The cover letter was handwritten in black ink, the signature a controlled slash. "Treat like royalty," my boss said, balancing a latte and her patience. "He insisted on you." "Insisted or threatened litigation?" I asked, flipping to Chapter 1. "Don't be sassy, we can't afford it." "Me or the lawsuit?" She didn't answer. She never does. She moved like an anxious crow and smelled faintly of printer toner and ambition. I skimmed the opening paragraph and felt the hair on my arms lift, like a breeze had breathed through paper. The first lines were, well, they were good in that dangerous way that makes you forgive red flags. Under a white winter moon, the pact was inked in blood, and the city forgot itself so the wolves could remember. Literary, atmospheric, a little unhinged. My type. By page 3, I had a problem. By page 7, I had a secret. Cassian wasn't writing fiction, not fully. He was chronicling a hidden city, familiar avenues veined with alleys that didn't exist on Google Maps, stairwells that led to locked courtyards where silver scratched concrete in quiet, repeating arcs. He knew which bodegas kept aspirin under the counter and which clubs had bathrooms that locked from the outside. He wrote about a pack, like it was a neighborhood association with fangs and bylaws. And then there was the voice, fluent in hunger, allergic to lies. I circled a paragraph in crimson. The ink brightened for a second, like it warmed to the words, and then settled. I blinked. "Okay," I whispered to the manuscript. "You're not creepy at all." My desk lamp flickered. The fluorescent tubes on the ceiling hummed like bees with temper issues. Outside our windows, Midtown frothed in horns and exhaust. Inside, my office smelled like coffee, paper, and whatever aftershave my coworker Jules stole from her last situationship. I turned to the acknowledgement page and stopped dead. Under, "For the one who sees endings before they're written," Cassian had scribbled a line in the margin that wasn't in any printed file. "Hello, editor." The pen stroke was fresh. I touched it. The ink smudged onto my fingertip like a kiss you shouldn't have accepted. I checked the timestamp on the PDF we'd printed. I checked the package's postmark. Impossible, all of it, which is New York's favorite hobby. "Ghosts don't buy postage," I told the air, and wiped my finger on a sticky note. It read, "Remember to buy cat litter, red pens, mercy." By 5 o'clock, I'd marked a dozen pages, mostly compliments disguised as cruelty. Consider strengthening this metaphor. Is editor for, "You can do better because you're brilliant, don't be lazy." By 6, everyone else had cleared out, and the office settled into the quiet of a city that pretends to sleep. I stayed because the manuscript wouldn't let me go, and because I liked the way streetlights poured silver onto my floor like a cool blessing. By 7, the elevator chimed. No one visits editors after 7 unless they're desperate, dangerous, or both. I opened my door to a man with a hood up and an apology on his mouth. "Ms. Hart," he said, voice shaped like winter. "I'm sorry for the hour. If you're selling Bible verses, I'm all stocked." I held his gaze, eyes storm gray, jaw carved, smile, a crime scene I'd investigate for 36 straight hours. If you're here to complain about my margin notes, take a number. He pushed his hood back. The fluorescent lights were unkind to most faces. They kissed his like a spotlight. He was clean-shaven but looked better built for stubble. His hair was black, longer on top, disciplined by a hand that didn't belong to a stylist. He carried a leather messenger bag that had seen better days and maybe a war. "Cassian Drayke," he said, offering a hand. "I wanted to thank you for reading so quickly." "You left me a note," I said, because it was easier than taking his hand and doing something tragic with it. "In ink that smudges like blood." A corner of his mouth lifted. "I thought you liked red." "I like truth," I said, stepping back so he could enter. He didn't. Not yet, because some people are polite the way other people are superstitious. "And I like ending where the woman gets to keep her spine." "I read your edits," he said. "The ones you're not supposed to make." Cold slid down my back. We haven't returned a file to you, Mr. Drayke." "Call me Cassian." "That's not an answer." He studied the wall of sticky notes that made up my private chaos. Arrows between character names, index cards marked with ink like small wounds, a calendar with circles around nothing. He smelled like rain in November, and a forest that still remembered it was a forest, not a plot twist. "I'll try again," he said softly. "You fix endings." Some authors would call that hubris. I call it mercy. I shrugged like I wasn't dizzy. Some endings deserve better editors. And some editors deserve better protection. His tone changed on the last word. Flattened, softened, wrapped itself in velvet. A warning, not a threat. "From what?" I said. He didn't look away from my notes. "From the people who don't like their stories changed." "The review section on Goodreads?" "I have a thick skin." He turned then, all the way, and the room's temperature adjusted to his decision. "Not them." For a moment he let me see it. The other city living underneath ours, threaded through it like a second spine. The alleys you don't enter without permission. The contracts you don't break without bleeding. The oaths you sign in something warmer than ink. "Your book," I said, mouth dry. "It's a history." "It's a confession," he corrected, stepping into the office at last. He took the chair across from mine and didn't fidget, because men like him don't. "And a warning. Stories are how we bind ourselves. Even lies. Especially lies. You wrote a pack," I said, ignoring the word "we" because denial is a soft blanket. "You wrote wolves like they're metaphors for grief. Grief wishes it had our teeth." I should have laughed. I should have told him to leave. Instead, I handed him a page I'd torn free. My margin note was less polite than usual. "Pick a lane, myth or report. You can't be both without breaking your reader." He read it. He looked up. "Maybe breaking the reader is the point." "I prefer breaking cycles," I said. And there it was, the flint spark between us, the kind that starts fires you can't explain to your insurance company. "Do you believe in prophecy, Lila?" he asked. "I believe in deadlines." "Prophecy is just a deadline we pretend we can't move." "I move plenty," I said, gesturing at the red all over his pages. Plot twist. I became the sequel none of them saw coming. That earned a real smile. It transformed him, made him less statue and more man, which was dangerous. He leaned forward, forearms braced on his knees. "I didn't come to argue commas," he said. "I came because the last chapter changed after I sent it." I stilled. "Changed how?" He set his bag on my desk and pulled out a stack of paper bound with a black ribbon. The ribbon was stained stiff near the knot. "Ink," I told myself again. "Ink with an iron tang." "This is what I wrote," he said, tapping the stack. "And this," he nodded at the copy I'd been marking, "is what arrived." I flipped to the final pages. A snowfall of white space, a breath before an ending. The last paragraph now read, "She will put down her red pen, finally, because she will have no need of it. The story will consent to her. Under a white winter moon, an editor will choose to be read instead of rewritten." My throat tightened. It wasn't the words. It was the sentence before them. Lila Hart will open the door at 7:16 p.m. to a man who smells like rain and rules, and she will think, oh. I checked the clock on my wall. 7:16 had passed 2 minutes ago. I had thought, oh. In my defense, I'd thought it very privately. That's not possible, I said, because you have to say it even when it is. I know what I sent, he said, eyes steady on mine. And I know what revised itself. You're telling me your manuscript self-edits. I'm telling you my pack's history is a hungry animal. He paused, and sometimes hungry animals hunt what they need. What do you need? I asked, because curiosity is a curse that looks like a compliment. You, he said simply. Not like men in bars say it, but like someone reading a sentence that had always been there. Not as a lover. Not as a conquest, as an editor, as the only person in this city reckless enough to change an ending everyone is afraid of. My laugh came out too sharp. Flattering. Also manipulative. Both can be true. The building settled around us, the way old structures do when they remember how they were made. A siren wailed somewhere down on 6th. A taxi screamed something impolite. He placed the black-ribboned stack beside my marked copy. Read the last page, he said quietly. Out loud. I don't perform for authors. I don't perform for anyone, but my fingers disobeyed. The page rasped like a secret. I read until I reached a line I hadn't marked, because it didn't exist this morning. An old bond will come to collect its due. Blood will try to rewrite her. She will decide whether ink can hold against it. A headache pressed behind my eyes like weather. Who is she? I asked. Cassian's mouth tightened, just enough to count as fear. My former beta mate, he said. She believes stories are law. And she knows your name. Great, I said lightly, because terror and humor share a closet. I've always wanted a fan with a ritual knife. He stood, and for a heartbeat the room felt too small for him, like his shape kept trying to be something a little wider, a little wilder. He smoothed it back into man. I'll keep you safe, he said. No, I said, surprising us both. I'll keep me safe. You just tell me the truth, I tapped the page. All of it. He exhaled. It fogged the moment between us. All right. The elevator chimed again, softer, as if something else had arrived and didn't want to be heard. The lights flickered. The scent in the hall changed, iron and winterberries, a wrong mix that made my stomach tilt. A shadow darkened my doorway. A white envelope slid under it, the paper edged in. Crimson? I didn't move. Neither did he. I picked it up because that is who I am, the girl who opens the door anyway. My name was written on the front in a spidery hand I didn't recognize, each letter a thin threat. When I turned it over, wax sealed the flap, pressed with a symbol I'd seen only once today, a crescent marked with 3 claw lines. I broke it. Inside was a single sheet. No greeting, no signature. Editors who tamper with oaths bleed out between the lines. The wax seal crumbled on my desk like dried blood. And outside, somewhere far below, a wolf, no, a city, howled. Chapter 2. If you believe secrets should come with trigger warnings, hit subscribe. Because the one I opened that night wasn't a letter. It was a contract. The paper pulsed. That's the part I can't explain without sounding like I've lost my editorial mind. It didn't just sit there on my desk. It breathed. A slow, rhythmic pulse under my fingertips like a heartbeat trapped in the fibers. Cassian didn't touch it. Smart man. Do you get mail often that tries to kill you? I asked, forcing my voice steady while my brain drafted panic in MLA format. Only when the author's particularly vengeful, he said quietly, eyes fixed on the crimson wax dust scattered across my notes. That seal, it's not meant for you. Well, someone clearly disagreed, I snapped. You said your ex was a beta mate. What does that even mean, like a creative partnership with fangs? He hesitated, then answered like a man who'd run out of ways to lie to himself. It means she led beside me. She carried half the pack's bond, half its power. Until I broke the bond, let me guess, she didn't take the breakup well. She wrote her rage into the old ways, he said. Blood magic, oaths that still recognize my name. He glanced at the letter again. And now, apparently, yours. I reached for my coffee mug, lukewarm sludge, my emotional support beverage, and took a swig to buy time. You're saying your ex-girlfriend put me on her supernatural kill list because I edited your manuscript? I'm saying she's a historian, Cassian said, voice low. Like me. But she believes history should never change. You challenged that I stared at the letter again, its ink dark as dried wine. You have got to be kidding me. I fix punctuation, Cassian. I'm not rewriting the Magna Carta. You're editing a story that's older than you think. Yeah, I'm starting to pick up on that. He took the seat opposite me again, elbows on knees, posture controlled but not relaxed. His presence filled the room like gravity. You didn't just mark a manuscript, Lila. You touched a binding text. When you changed its language, you unleashed a homicidal ex with a calligraphy fetish. Got it? I set the letter down like it was toxic. So how do we unbind it? There's no undo. Only rewrite. Rewriting is what I do, I said. You're in luck. You'll need more than ink, he warned. Then bring more ink, I shot back. For a second we just looked at each other, me, furious and exhausted, him, haunted and far too calm. Somewhere between us, the air thickened, something unseen stretching taut, like an invisible thread snapping into place. His pupils flared silver. And I felt it, just for a breath, a brush of warmth at the base of my throat. A pulse that wasn't mine. What was that? I whispered. His expression darkened. Recognition. The fluorescent light hummed again. My computer screen flickered once, twice, and then went black. When it came back on, the open document wasn't my current project. It was the Winter Oath, the final page glowing faintly. The same prophetic line waited at the bottom. She will decide whether ink can hold against blood. I swallowed. Cassian, this is not funny. I didn't do that, he said softly. She did. She? Rhea. The Beta X? The one who's still bound to the Pack's archives, he said. She can reach through anything written in our language. Cool, I muttered. So your ex can hack my Word doc through witchcraft. Awesome. Should I send her an invoice? He didn't smile this time. You shouldn't answer her. Define answer. Because I may have just mouthed, "What the hell?" at the screen. Then she knows you heard her. The cursor blinked once, twice. Then the line below the prophecy typed itself, keystroke by keystroke, with the grace of an invisible hand. Do you think rewriting will save you, little editor? My breath hitched. Cassian stood, his chair scraping back sharply. We need to leave. Excuse me? Leave where? This is my office. My cat doesn't even like overnight guests. He reached for my arm. His touch was firm, hot, grounding. If she marked you, she can find you. The wards here won't hold wards? You mean the security cameras and coffee machine? No, he said, eyes flashing again. The ones that keep mortals blind to what hunts them. The sarcasm froze on my tongue, because for just a second, the edges of the room shimmered, my bookshelf stretching taller, the windows deepening into something older, darker. A second city ghosted over the real one, built from memory and shadow. And I realized Cassian wasn't exaggerating. He was revealing. We took the stairs because apparently elevators mess with pack senses. His words, not mine. I grabbed my coat, laptop, and dignity, 3 things I hoped would survive the night. Outside, New York had transformed from neon to mist. The street lamps glowed weakly through drizzle. Cassian's car was parked half a block away, sleek, black, and much too quiet for its size. "You're kidnapping me," I said, trying for humor. "You know that, right?" "I'm protecting you. See, that's what kidnappers say." "If I were kidnapping you," he said evenly, opening the passenger door, "you wouldn't be negotiating." Fair point. The drive was silent except for the rain. My nerves buzzed like caffeine overdose. "So," I said finally, "you're really going to tell me I've somehow angered a magical ex who controls ancient typewriters?" "Not typewriters," he murmured. "Bloodlines. Rhea doesn't just want you gone. She wants the story fixed. She'll use you to finish the chapter she started." "Okay, but here's the thing. I don't write her story." "I write mine." "Then start doing it fast," he said. "Because if she rewrites your name in her version..." "She wins," I finished. "Great. Love that for me." He turned sharply into a narrow street I'd never noticed before, lined with iron gates and old brick facades. The city felt older here, less skyscraper, more secret. The rain hissed against cobblestones that shouldn't exist in Manhattan. "Where are we?" "A neutral enclave. The Treaty Quarter sounds like the place where bad deals happen. Sometimes the only ones that stick." The car stopped in front of a converted warehouse with stained glass windows glowing faintly from within, warm gold like candlelight through whiskey. My heart thumped. "Cassian, is this where you hide your other editors?" He ignored that, stepping out into the rain and circling to open my door. He offered his hand again, steady and sure. This time I took it, because something about the way he said safe made me believe it for half a second. Inside, the warehouse smelled of rain and ink. Literally. The air tasted metallic, like old typewriter ribbons and moonlight. Shelves of books, ancient, leather-bound, claw-marked, lined the walls. A massive wooden table sat in the center, engraved with a circular sigil that hummed faintly beneath the skin. "This is," I breathed, "like a paranormal WeWork." "This is the archives," Cassian said. "Every Pack story lives here." He moved to a locked cabinet, pulling out an old volume bound in gray hide. "This is Rhea's ledger. Every bond she's ever sealed in blood. If she's marked you, your name will appear here." He laid it open on the table. The pages turned themselves, and there it was, fresh ink, still glistening. Lila Hart, editor/interloper/correction of fate. "Well," I said weakly, "at least she spelled my name right." Cassian's jaw flexed. "She's trying to make you a character." "Excuse me?" "In her version," he said, "you're not a person anymore. You're part of the narrative, and if she finishes your arc, I die." "Or worse," he said. "You stop existing." I sat down hard in the nearest chair. Okay, fine. I'm editing a homicidal fairy tale. What's the fix? How do we proofread reality?" He looked at me, rain still caught in his hair, expression carved in resolve. "We don't proofread it," he said. "We write back." He slid a blank sheet of parchment toward me. "Ink it in your hand," he said. "Write something that can anchor you to your own version." "I'm not exactly a calligrapher." "You're an editor," he said. "You already shape worlds." He handed me a quill that shimmered faintly, silver and gold threaded through black. I dipped it into a small vial of ink that smelled faintly like ozone. When the tip touched the page, it hummed. "What should I write?" "Something true," he said. "Something only you could have written." My fingers trembled, but the words came easily, maybe too easily. I decide how my story ends. The ink glowed softly, then sank into the paper. Cassian's shoulders eased a fraction. "Good," he murmured. "That might hold her off." I arched a brow. "Might?" He gave me a look that was equal parts apology and promise. "You wanted realism." "Yeah," I said dryly. "But I didn't order it with a side of existential peril." The ledger behind him snapped shut. The lights flickered once, twice, and then dimmed. A gust of wind blew through the warehouse, though every door was closed. On the table, my page fluttered like something alive. Then a voice whispered. Not from the air, but from inside the ink itself. "You can't edit prophecy, Lila." I looked up at Cassian. "Please tell me that was your stomach." His eyes were glowing again, bright, silver, wild. "No," he said softly. "That was her." Outside, thunder rolled over the city, deep and ancient, and on the blank wall beside us, words began etching themselves in fresh, wet crimson. An invitation, or a curse. Chapter 3. If you've ever felt like someone else was writing your story, comment, "Rewrite this fate," because that's exactly what it felt like, the universe grabbing my outline and scribbling over it in red ink. The words on the wall bled like living things. Not metaphorically, actually. Drops of crimson rolled down the concrete, slow and deliberate, forming letters that shimmered like veins. Cassian stood between me and them, shoulders tense, hands half-shifted, veins tracing silver beneath his skin. His wolf was showing. "Don't look directly at the script," he warned. "It feeds on attention." "Terrific," I muttered. My two weaknesses, curiosity and men with authority issues. But of course I looked anyway. The sentence formed completely now, looping across the wall in elegant, cruel cursive. Once the editor bleeds, her edits end. "I'm sensing a theme," I said, stepping back. "Does your ex always threaten workplace injuries?" Cassian's jaw tightened. "She's reminding me that she can still enforce oaths." "Oaths about what, exactly?" He hesitated, which is never a good sign when you're talking about exes with blood magic. "About truth," he said finally, "and loyalty." "Which one did you break?" He met my eyes. "Both." Well, that tracked. The room's light dimmed again. The old glass in the windows vibrated, then cracked like a scream muffled by stone. Cassian moved faster than sight, reaching the circle engraved in the table. He pressed his palm flat to the sigil. The wood pulsed silver. The bleeding words froze mid-drip, as if caught in suspended time. "She's reaching through the archive," he said, using the oaths as doorways. "Like demonic Wi-Fi?" His mouth twitched. "Something like that." "Can you block her?" "Not alone." "Then let me help," I said, before I could talk myself out of it. Cassian's gaze snapped to me. "Lila, she's dangerous." "So am I," said. "I just use punctuation." He didn't argue after that. He just watched me roll up my sleeves and stare down at the glowing circle. "What do I do?" "You'll need to anchor me," he said. "Speak what's true." "Okay," I said, standing beside him. "Truth I can do." "I've got years of therapy receipts to prove it." He almost smiled. "Ready?" "Define ready." Too late. His palm pressed deeper into the sigil. A rush of wind howled through the warehouse. Except the windows stayed shut. The inked books rattled, and the scent of ozone filled the air, sharp and electric. Then the temperature dropped. I saw her. She appeared not in flesh, but in reflection, shimmering in the glossy surface of the table like a woman trapped under ice. She was beautiful in that dangerous way villains always are. Elegant, sharp, too perfect to be human. Hair dark as midnight ink, eyes gold and unblinking. "Cassian," she breathed, and though her voice came from the reflection, it vibrated through the room like struck glass. "You brought her here." "Rhea." "Stay out of this," Cassian said, his voice lower now, threaded with something not entirely human. Rhea smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You never did learn boundaries, did you?" "Always rewriting things that should have been left alone." "Your oaths are killing people," he said. "You need to let the past die." "I am the past," she said sweetly. "And now, thanks to your little editor, I can finally correct the ending." Her gaze shifted to me. The room tilted, the reflection pulling at me like gravity. "Lila Hart," she said. "I've read you." "Cool," I said, clinging to sarcasm like it was pepper spray. "Did you leave a 5-star review?" She tilted her head. "I prefer revisions." Cassian's grip tightened on the table edge. "She's trying to bind you." "Oh, she'll have to get in line," I muttered, voice shaking. "Plenty of people have tried." Ria's image rippled, and suddenly her reflection wasn't just in the table. It was on every mirrored surface in the room. The glass cabinet doors, the polished metal lamp, even the puddle of ink beside my elbow. Hundreds of her eyes staring. "Do you know what happens," she whispered, "when you change an ending that was written in blood? I'm guessing nothing good." She smiled again, slow and terrible. "The story rewrites you." The air around me thickened, my breath frosting. The page I'd written earlier, "I decide how my story ends," lifted off the table and burst into light. For a moment I saw two versions of myself overlapping, one with ink-stained fingers, one with blood, both trembling. Cassian slammed his hand down, breaking the illusion. The light flared, and Ria's reflection shattered like glass struck by thunder. The warehouse fell silent except for my heartbeat and the soft hiss of rain on the windows. "She can't hold a full manifestation yet," Cassian said, chest heaving. "But she will try again." I rubbed my temples. "So, what's the next step? Group therapy? Exorcism? Blocking her number?" "We have to find the original chronicle," he said. "The first book that bound our pack's history. It's the only thing stronger than her blood oaths. Let me guess, it's missing." He nodded grimly. "It was sealed decades ago in the old publishing district." "The human world built over it," I gave a humorless laugh. "Of course it did. If the magic apocalypse ever happens, it'll start in real estate." Cassian moved closer, his voice softer now. "You did well." "Yeah," I said, "for someone who almost got rewritten out of existence." He smiled, barely there but real. "Most people can't even see her." "Lucky me," I muttered, front row seat to my own haunting. "You stood your ground." She noticed. "I noticed her noticing," I said, heart still racing. "I'm not sure that's a compliment." He looked like he wanted to reach out, to touch my hand or reassure me, but stopped himself. "You're part of this now, Lila. Whether you want to be or not." I forced a smirk. Plot twist. I never do. We left the archive through a side door that led into an alley half swallowed by fog. Cassian stayed close, his hand hovering near my lower back. Not touching, but protective. The city around us felt different, like it was holding its breath. "She'll come after you again," he said quietly. "She'll use the story itself if she has to." "Well," I said, tugging my coat tighter, "if she wants a rewrite war, she's about to meet her editor." His lips curved. "You really think words can stop her?" "No," I said, "but they can cut." We reached the end of the alley where the streetlights flickered in gold halos. Somewhere distant, a wolf howled, low and mournful. Cassian turned toward the sound, eyes silver again. "Stay close to me, Lila," he said. "If she draws blood—" "I'll file a complaint with HR, I said, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. He almost laughed. "You're impossible. Occupational hazard." The rain fell harder, soaking through my coat. As we crossed the street, something warm trickled down my wrist. I looked. A small nick, a paper cut. From the page I'd written earlier, but the blood didn't drip normally. It spread into tiny letters, blooming crimson across my skin. The story begins again. Cassian saw it too. His jaw tightened. "She's found a way through you." "Through me?" I whispered. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, eyes flaring bright silver in the dark, "she's making you her protagonist." The world tilted again, just slightly, but enough that I felt the hum beneath the pavement, the pulse of something ancient shifting awake. Above us, thunder cracked, and in the reflection of the rain pooling on the street, I saw Ria's smile again, bright, patient, triumphant, like an author who's just found her ending. Chapter 4. If you've ever followed a man into a basement because he promised to explain everything, go ahead and comment, Poor decisions make great stories. Because that's how mine started, with Cassian, a locked door, and the faint hum of something ancient underneath Manhattan. The next morning, I woke in Cassian's apartment, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like cedar and rain. He'd insisted I not go home. Said Rhea could trace me through anything I'd written there. Apparently, my post-it wall now doubled as a summoning circle. Great. Cassian's apartment wasn't what I expected from a best-selling author/secret alpha. No velvet couches or wall-sized mirrors, just stacks of books, a few plants barely alive, and a faint scent of ozone that clung to his skin. The man collected stories the way most people collected regrets. I found him in the kitchen, barefoot, hair damp, pouring coffee like it was holy water. "Morning," I croaked, or whatever this is. He glanced over his mug. "You slept." "Briefly. I dreamed of wolves quoting Shakespeare. Is that a symptom or a side effect?" "Depends," he said. "Were they accurate?" "Tragically." He smiled, just barely, and slid a cup toward me. His hands were scarred, not new scars either. Faint silver-white lines like claw marks. I tried not to stare, failed spectacularly. "Those from your pack history?" "From what I used to believe in," he said, "before I realized even loyalty can lie." I sipped my coffee. "You realize that sounds exactly like something a brooding novelist would say before breaking someone's heart." "Then it's on brand." We didn't talk much after that. The city outside buzzed with its usual chaos. Honking taxis, muffled sirens, human noise pretending everything was normal. But beneath it, I could feel something else now, like another heartbeat under the pavement. Cassian must have noticed me listening. You can sense it, can't you? The second city, like an echo, I said quietly. Every sound has a shadow. He nodded. The hidden pack lines run through it. Old places, subways, presses? He hesitated, then pulled a folded map from a drawer. It was old, edges yellowed, streets labeled in both English and something clawed. Before digital archives, before human printing presses, the packs used their own. Underground, inked in blood, sealed with oath sigils. The first chronicle was made there, and let me guess, that's where we're headed. He looked up, eyes like winter stormlight. "If we can find it before Rhea does, we can rewrite her oath." "Free you from her script?" I blinked. "So, we're breaking into a magic printing press. You know, normal Thursday." Cassian's smile was sharp. "You'll need a coat." The entrance wasn't in any tourist map. It was in a forgotten subway line beneath Canal Street. The kind of place New Yorkers pretend doesn't exist because admitting it does would ruin their rent-controlled leases. We took a maintenance elevator that smelled like dust and old ink. Cassian pressed his hand against the wall panel instead of a button. The steel groaned, then sank lower than it had any right to go. When the doors opened, the air hit me first, thick, metallic, humming with quiet whispers. Rows of rusted printing presses stretched into the dark, their gears still, their rollers slick with something too dark to be oil. "Oh," I breathed, "haunted Kinkos." Perfect Cassian shot me a look. "Stay close." "Sure thing, Alpha Boy. Just let me grab my ghost insurance." He didn't rise to the bait this time. He just moved ahead, every step purposeful. The deeper we went, the louder the hum became. I realized it wasn't machinery, it was words. Thousands of them, whispered all at once. They clung to the air like static, some in English, some in that other twisting language I'd seen in his manuscript, some that felt like they were whispering my name. "Cassian," I said softly. "They're speaking. They're remembering." He stopped at a massive press in the center, shaped like a cathedral organ and older than steel itself. The levers were engraved with lunar sigils, the rollers carved from obsidian. A pool of congealed ink sat beneath it, glinting faintly red. "This is it," Cassian said. "The first chronicle press. Everything our kind ever was, every law, every oath was printed here. And you think your ex used this thing to bind me into her revenge story?" He nodded grimly. Rhea was the last keeper. She never let it die. I circled the press carefully, heart thudding. So, how do we unbind it? You don't destroy stories, Cassian said, his voice reverent. You edit them. He handed me something wrapped in cloth. I unrolled it. An old fountain pen, carved from bone, the nib glimmering faintly gold. Cassian, I said, please tell me this isn't made of what I think it's made of. He met my gaze. It belonged to the first editor. Human? Not exactly. The air grew heavier. My skin prickled. The whispers around us turned feverish, fluttering against my ears like moth wings. I could make out fragments now, phrases from stories I'd read, or maybe lived. Cassian moved to the side of the press, his eyes glowing faintly silver. She'll feel this, he warned. Once you start editing, Rhea will know. I twirled the pen in my fingers, ignoring the tremor. Good. Let her watch. He looked at me, really looked, and something softened in his expression. You shouldn't have to carry this. Welcome to publishing, I said. Nobody volunteers. We just get deadlines. I placed my hand on the parchment Cassian had unrolled, a replica of the oath page, written in that clawed script. My blood still marked it faintly from last night. Okay, I whispered. What do I change? Not much, he said. Too drastic, and it won't hold. You need to shift meaning, not delete it. Shift meaning, I repeated, nodding. Fine, I can do nuance. The pen bit the page. Ink bloomed. I wrote, The story binds what is chosen, not what is forced. The press groaned, its gears turning once, grinding metal against metal. A wave of energy rushed through the room. The whispers screamed, then fell silent. I stepped back, panting. Did it work? Cassian's pupils dilated, the silver in his eyes bright as lightning. You changed it. The Chronicle recognized your hand, cool, I said, legs shaking. So why does it feel like the floor's breathing? The ground rumbled, the ink pool rippled, and from its surface a shape began to rise. Female, regal, wrong. Rhea. Her reflection took form again, this time solid, dripping ink that hissed like acid when it hit the floor. You stole my pen, she said softly. Cassian stepped in front of me. It was never yours. Everything written in my blood is mine. Her gaze cut to me. And you, little editor, have written in it now. I felt it before I saw it, the warmth spreading across my wrist, where the words had appeared before. They flared again, glowing crimson. The story begins again. Rhea smiled. See? You can't edit prophecy. You are the prophecy. Cassian's hand closed around mine. His voice was rough. Run. I thought you said she couldn't fully manifest yet. She wasn't supposed to, he growled. You changed the rule. You gave her choice. Great, I gasped. Empowered women, my favorite genre, unless they're homicidal ink ghosts. The presses roared to life, spitting pages like a storm. Each sheet bore my name, each one screamed my story in ink and blood. The air thickened with words that cut. Cassian yanked me toward the exit, but Rhea's voice followed, low and deadly. You can run, editor. But every draft has a final version. The elevator doors clanged shut. The last thing I saw before the metal sealed was her smile, sharp as an edit note, endless as ink. We shot upward, the elevator shaking. Cassian's hand stayed wrapped around mine, his pulse wild. You changed the Chronicle, he said breathlessly. You gave her a loophole. Good job, me, I muttered. I made a sociopath sentient. No, he turned to me, eyes fierce. You gave yourself one too, I frowned. Meaning? Meaning now, she can't decide your ending. You can thunder cracked above, the city rumbling like a living thing. The story was no longer just hers. Or his. It was mine. Chapter 5. If you've ever edited your own mess while pretending it's someone else's fault, drop a comment that says, I'm the plot twist. Because by the time we hit the surface, I wasn't editing a book anymore. I was editing fate. The elevator rattled to a stop somewhere under Tribeca. The metal doors hissed open, revealing a maintenance corridor that smelled like damp ink and ozone. I stumbled out first, still dizzy from whatever energy that press had dumped into my bloodstream. My skin buzzed like I'd swallowed lightning. Cassian stayed close, scanning the shadows. His hand brushed the small of my back, not a touch that claimed, but one that counted. "Are you all right?" "I'm great," I said, my voice still shaky. "My skin's writing poetry. Your ex tried to print me like an article, and the floor's still vibrating." Typical Tuesday Cassian huffed something that might have been a laugh. "You shouldn't have used your blood." I didn't exactly have a pen refill lying around. He turned, eyes glowing faintly again. "You did more than rewrite a sentence, Lila. You changed a law. Every word you touched became binding for you." I blinked. Define binding, because if you're implying legal liability, I mean soul binding. "Cool," I said flatly, because what I really needed in my dating life was more paperwork. We climbed the last flight of stairs into an abandoned bookstore. Dust coated everything. The sign above the door still read Eldridge Books, stories that outlive us. Irony clearly wasn't extinct. Cassian flicked on a small lantern, and shadows curved over shelves lined with cracked spines. "This was where I wrote the first draft of the Winter Oath," he said quietly. "You used an occult blood press and then came here for edits? That's commitment." "This place sits on a ley line," he said. "Words written here reach deeper." "Into what? Reader hearts or alternate hell dimensions?" "Both," he admitted. I drifted toward the counter, running my fingers over the old register. A faint hum answered, the same undercurrent I'd felt in the press room, but softer now, more like a pulse under glass. "Cassian, why me? Why did your manuscript choose me?" "It didn't." He looked up at me, eyes unreadable. "I did." My breath caught. "You requested me." "You told my boss to assign me your edits. I knew your work. You change endings for women who don't get choices. You fix stories where power runs one way. That's what the Chronicle needed. Someone reckless enough to believe change is possible." I swallowed. "So you used me." His jaw tightened. "At first." "Charming." He stepped closer. "But then I read what you wrote in the margins." "My passive-aggressive comments?" "No." His voice softened. "The way you see people. You rewrite cruelty into clarity. I'd forgotten stories could do that." The way he said it, like confession, pulled something loose inside me. "And now?" I asked. "Now I'm trying to make sure you don't die for it." Something sharp cracked overhead. We both froze. A sheet of paper drifted down from the upper balcony, clean, white, and still wet with ink. Cassian caught it mid-air. Words appeared as we watched, scrawling across the page in crimson script. "She will bind him before the moon wanes, or the blood debt will claim them both." I exhaled. "Please tell me that's not about me." He didn't answer. "Cassian." "It's the prophecy Rhea left unfinished," he said grimly. "She's rewriting it around us." The bond's forming faster than I expected. The what now is doing what faster? His gaze locked on mine. "The bond between alpha and mate," I laughed nervously. "Oh, that's rich. I'm your editor, not your—" He closed the distance before I could finish. "You think the bond cares about job titles?" I stared at him. "So what? You're saying fate just copy-pasted me into your supernatural marriage contract?" "Not fate," he said quietly. "Your rewrite." I stumbled back, heartbeat hammering. "That's insane. I barely know you, and yet you touched my oath and lived," he said. "You edited my story." "Our stories are now entangled. That's not superstition. It's law written by people who still howl at the moon." "Lila, no," I snapped, shaking. "I don't do destiny. I do deadlines. I fix endings. I don't live them." The light flickered. The air shifted. The dust around us swirled into letters, her letters. Ria's voice hissed through the cracks in the floorboards. "You can't unwrite him now, little editor. You wrote his name into your blood." My stomach dropped. "Cassian, tell me that's metaphorical." He shook his head once. "Of course not," I muttered. "You people never do metaphors." The lantern sputtered, then flared brighter as Cassian stepped between me and the whispering shadows. "Ignore her." "Oh, sure. I'll just pretend the homicidal spirit of your ex isn't narrating my life like an audiobook." He turned toward the shelves, grabbing a thick, dust-coated tome. "If she's invoking the bond, there's only one way to counter it. Let me guess. More blood?" He glanced over his shoulder, half a smirk returning. "You learn quickly." I groaned. This is the worst internship ever. He cleared a space on the counter, placing the book down. Inside were rows of names, dates, and seals. "This is a pack registry," he said. "Every alpha, every mate, every pair bound by story and blood, like a supernatural linked in." He gave me a look. "We can seal your name off, make it unreadable to her magic, but it will cost something." Define cost. "Memory," he said. "Ria's spells feed on recognition. If she can't remember who you are, she can't control your thread." I blinked. "Wait. You're saying I have to erase myself, from her mind or from yours too?" He hesitated. "Both." The air went cold. "Oh, absolutely not," I said, heart pounding. "You're not Men in Blacking me out of your supernatural soap opera." "If she kills you, there's no story left to remember," he said fiercely. "I won't let that happen." For a heartbeat, we just stood there, two broken drafts of people staring down a plot we didn't write. Finally, I whispered, "What happens if I refuse?" Cassian's throat worked. "Then she'll claim you before dawn." The window behind us shattered. Cold wind howled in, carrying the smell of rain and iron. Ria's voice cut through the noise. "It's already written." Cassian grabbed the book, yanking me toward the back exit. We crashed through the alley door as thunder rolled above. Rain poured down, silver and relentless. "She's breaking through," he shouted over the storm. "We don't have hours, we have minutes." "To do what?" "Bind you. To me." Before she does, I froze in the downpour. "You want to what?" "It's the only way to protect you." "That's not protection, Cassian, that's possession." His voice cracked, raw. "It's choice." "This time it's your choice." I stared at him. The rain blurred everything. The city, the prophecy, the blood ink crawling across my wrist again. "The story begins again." "Then write it with me," I whispered. His eyes flared silver. "Lila!" "I decide how my story ends, remember?" He stepped closer, every word soaked in storm. "Then say it, and it becomes law." So I did. I bind my story to my will. Not to blood, not to fate. The air shuddered. My skin burned, then cooled. The letters on my wrist dissolved, replaced by faint silver lines that pulsed like ink alive. Cassian exhaled slowly. "You did it!" Lightning flashed. Somewhere deep beneath the city, something screamed, furious, betrayed. Ria. The storm fell silent. Cassian looked at me like I'd rewritten gravity itself. "You're free of her bond." "For now," I said softly. "But she won't stop, will she?" He shook his head. "No. And the Chronicle won't either." I managed a shaky smile. "Then I guess we keep editing." He smiled back. Together. Chapter 6. If you've ever tried to fix something only to realize you broke the whole universe instead, drop a comment saying, "Send coffee, not consequences." Because that's exactly what I felt like. An editor who'd hit save all on reality, and the document started fighting back. By dawn, the rain had stopped. By the time the sun rose, Cassian's world came to collect its due. We hadn't made it far from the alley when the first wolves appeared. 3 of them, silver gray, and built like nightmares wearing fur. They didn't attack, not yet. They surrounded us, forming a crescent in the middle of the street. Their eyes weren't wild, They were waiting. Cassian stepped in front of me. "Stay behind me." "Don't speak unless I tell you." "Oh, sure," I whispered. "Because this looks like a negotiation, not an ambush." "Exactly," he murmured. "They're the council's sentinels." One of the wolves shifted, a blur of motion, bone, and muscle twisting into a man dressed in a dark coat. His voice was sandpaper and authority. "Cassian Drayke," he said. "You've broken the oath of silence. The council demands your surrender." Cassian's jaw flexed. "Tell the council I don't kneel to ghosts." The sentinel's gaze flicked to me. "And the human?" "She's under my protection," Cassian said. The man sneered. "So it's true." "You bound yourself to an outsider. You've tainted the chronicle itself." "Correction," I said, stepping forward. "I edited it." "You're welcome." The man's eyes snapped to me, sharp as glass. "She speaks." "She lives," Cassian said coldly, "and she's not yours to judge." The sentinel smiled faintly. "No, but she's written into the record now. And every record demands balance." "You both know the penalty: exile," Cassian muttered. "Death," the sentinel corrected. Cassian growled, a sound so deep it made the air tremble. "Tell your council if they want a war, they can print that headline themselves." They left, not because they wanted to, but because Cassian's power filled the street like a thunderclap. When they disappeared into the fog, I finally exhaled. "So," I said, hands shaking, "that was your diplomatic side?" "That was diplomacy," he said dryly. "Good to know. Next time, maybe wear a tie." We found shelter in a loft above an old print shop. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Dust, coffee, and tension filled the air. Cassian paced by the window, his movements restless. "They'll summon me before nightfall," he said. "The council doesn't ignore violations like this." "Can't you just—" I gestured vaguely. "Wolf lawyer your way out of it?" He smiled grimly. "There's no appeal. They'll claim I broke pack law by letting a mortal alter our history. They'll demand punishment, and you'll just let them? If I run, they'll hunt you instead." I set my mug down hard. "Cassian, no offense, but your people have the worst HR department I've ever heard of." His eyes softened. "You should leave the city." "And go where?" "Somewhere with fewer homicidal furries." "Anywhere Rhea can't find you." I crossed my arms. "You think running fixes this? You think after everything, I'm just going to quit my own story?" "Lila," he said, his tone quiet but dangerous. "If the council doesn't kill me, she will." I stepped closer. "Then let her try." "Because last time I checked, I've already outwritten death once this week." He stared at me, something raw flickering behind his composure. "You're infuriating." "Occupational hazard." And then softer. "And I'm terrified I'll lose you." The words hit harder than any prophecy. My throat tightened. "You won't," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. The lights flickered, again, and the air turned cold. "Cassian," I whispered, "tell me that's the bad wiring." He didn't answer. A chill crawled across my skin. In the reflection of the window, I saw her again. Rhea, smiling faintly, like she'd been invited. "You broke the law, my love." Her voice coiled through the air. "Now the law will break you." Cassian lunged forward, slamming his hand to the window. "Get out!" But the reflection didn't vanish. Instead, it split into two, one image of Rhea, one of me. The mirror me blinked, then smiled back. "She carries what you gave her," Rhea whispered. "She's already bound by the seed of your story." My stomach twisted. "What does she mean, seed?" Cassian's face drained of color. "No!" "What?" I pressed. He turned to me slowly, like the movement hurt. "Your blood merged with mine when we sealed the rewrite. The bond wasn't just symbolic. It's alive now, alive." The word echoed, dizzying. "Are you saying—" "I think you're carrying part of the chronicle," he said hoarsely. "And if I'm right, it's growing." The air pulsed. The reflection vanished, replaced by streaks of ink crawling down the window pane. My heartbeat roared in my ears. "You're saying I'm, pregnant with a prophecy?" Cassian didn't smile. "Rhea's trying to weaponize it. If she corrupts the story inside you, she can rewrite the world in her image." "Oh, perfect." I always wanted to give birth to the apocalypse. He caught my hand. His pulse thrummed hot against my wrist. "Lila, listen to me. We can stop her, but not alone. We'll need allies." "Right," I said, dragging in a breath. "Because when you're hunted by werewolf bureaucrats and cursed exes, what you really need is a support group." His lips quirked, but the worry didn't leave his eyes. "There's someone who might help." "The archivist. She remembers stories before they're told. Is she sane?" "No." "Great," I muttered. "Can't wait to meet her." We packed what little we had, notes, the ledger, the cursed pen, and slipped back into the city's pulse. Cassian led the way through the morning fog, his shoulders tight, his scent a storm barely contained. I walked beside him, my mind racing, my body humming with something I didn't understand. Power, fear, a strange warmth that shouldn't have been there. "Cassian," I said quietly, "if the bond inside me is alive, what happens if she takes it?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, rough. "Then she won't just control the Chronicle. She'll control me." I froze. "You mean, my story is tied to yours now," he said. "If she owns one, she owns both." The realization hit like a cold blade. Rhea didn't just want revenge. She wanted authorship. And if she couldn't kill me, she'd rewrite me. The city shifted around us. Neon and shadow, heartbeat and prophecy. For the first time, I understood what Cassian meant when he said stories bind the world together, and now ours was bleeding into everything. The Chronicle pulsed under my skin, faint but rhythmic, like something small and ancient was trying to wake up. Cassian looked at me then, eyes full of storm and sorrow. "You changed everything," he whispered. "Yeah," I said softly. "I tend to do that." He smiled, just barely. "And now we'll have to survive it." Chapter 7. If you've ever gone looking for answers and found more chaos instead, comment, "I asked for closure, not a cosmic draft." Because today, I learned that truth is just another word for plot twist. By the time we reached the archivist's domain, the city had folded in on itself. Cassian led me through alleys that shouldn't have connected, one turn past a florist, 2 turns through a subway service door, and suddenly we were in a different version of Manhattan. The air shimmered like heat haze, but it wasn't warm. The sky above us was copper gray, buildings older, streets quieter. Reality, on an editing break. "Where are we?" I whispered. "The inner line," Cassian said, "where stories meet before they choose their worlds." I blinked. "Like a cosmic waiting room?" He smirked faintly. "Something like that." The streets here had no cars, only shadows moving like whispers. Words floated faintly in the air. Broken phrases, half-finished sentences, bits of stories that hadn't found endings yet. They brushed my skin like static. I shivered. "Cassian, are we safe here?" "No one's safe here," he said, voice low. "But Rhea can't rewrite what hasn't been written yet." "That's why we came. Wonderful," I muttered. "A place where time has writer's block." We reached a small building that looked like a church married to a library and divorced a museum. Stone gargoyles crouched over arched doors, each one carved with runes that flickered silver as Cassian approached. He pressed his hand to the door, murmuring something in that clawed language I still didn't understand. The air thrummed. The locks clicked. The doors opened. Inside smelled like paper, dust, and moonlight. Shelves spiraled upward toward a ceiling lost in shadow. Books whispered as we passed. Some turned their own pages, as if curious. Others shivered when I got too close. I had the distinct feeling they knew me. Cassian stopped at the far end of the hall. She's here. The archivist wasn't what I expected. She was younger than I thought, maybe 40, with hair streaked silver and black, eyes the color of ink in candlelight. She sat behind a desk piled with manuscripts that looked centuries old. Her fingers were stained red, though I didn't think it was paint. "Cassian Drayke," she said without looking up. "I warned you about rewriting the oaths." "I didn't," Cassian said. "She did." The archivist finally looked at me. When she smiled, it wasn't kind. "Ah, the editor." "That's me," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "The one currently being haunted, hunted, and possibly rewritten." "Fun times," she tilted her head. "And pregnant with a chronicle." "Okay," I said, "so we're just skipping the small talk." Cassian stepped forward. "We need to separate the chronicle from her before Rhea gets to it." The archivist arched an eyebrow. "You can't separate what's become symbiotic." "Explain," I said tightly. She rose from her chair, gliding closer. "The chronicle isn't a thing, Lila. It's a living archive, a collective memory of every pack bond ever formed. When you rewrote Cassian's oath, it recognized you as an editor. It moved into you because it needed a new author." "Author?" My throat went dry. "You mean I'm hosting an entire mythology," she said softly. "Yes." Cassian's jaw tightened. "There must be a way to protect her." The archivist studied him. "You sound less like an alpha and more like a man in love." "Maybe both," he said. I blinked. "Wow, okay, we're just saying that out loud now." The archivist smirked. "Love complicates authorship. But it also changes outcomes. Tell me, Lila, do you want to carry it?" I hesitated. My heartbeat filled the silence. "If I give it up, what happens?" "You survive," she said. "But the pack doesn't. Rhea will take the chronicle and bind every wolf in blood. She'll make the world remember her version, and if I keep it?" "You might die," she said. "Or worse, you'll outlive everything you love." Cassian stepped forward, eyes fierce. "There has to be another way." "There's always another way," the archivist said, "but it demands truth." "Truth?" I repeated. She nodded toward a large mirror behind her desk. "This shows you the unedited draft of your soul. The parts you've crossed out, rewritten, denied. If you want to wield the Chronicle's power, you must face what you've been hiding." "Like a magical performance review?" She didn't smile. "Like a reckoning." Cassian reached for me. "You don't have to—" "Yes," I said. "I do." Because deep down, I already knew the truth I'd been avoiding wasn't about the Chronicle. It was about me. I stepped in front of the mirror. At first, all I saw was my reflection. Tired eyes, ink-smudged fingers, coffee addict chic. Then the surface rippled. Another version of me stepped forward. Same face, different eyes. This Lila was confident, sharper, something almost divine behind her gaze. She spoke first. "You keep rewriting other people's endings because you don't believe you deserve your own." "That's not true," I whispered. "You edit love out of every story because it never stayed for you." I flinched. "Stop. You hide behind sarcasm because silence terrifies you, because if the story ends, you'll be forgotten." I swallowed hard. "You're not real." "Neither is destiny," she said softly, "until someone writes it." Her hand reached through the mirror, touching mine. For a heartbeat, warmth flooded through me. Ink and light, grief and hope. My reflection smiled. Then she dissolved into my skin. I staggered back, gasping. My veins shimmered silver for an instant, then settled. The chronicle inside me pulsed once, strong and steady. The archivist's voice broke the silence. "You've accepted authorship." Cassian caught me before I fell. "What does that mean?" "She's not carrying the chronicle anymore," the archivist said. "She is it." I stared down at my hands, no longer trembling, just alive. So what now? Now, the archivist said. You write. The lights flickered. The books trembled. A low rumble filled the hall. Ria's voice slithered through the air. She can't hold what she doesn't understand. Let me teach her how stories end. Cassian swore. She found us. The archivist's eyes flashed. She shouldn't be able to reach here. She's using the Chronicle's link, I realized. She's pulling through me. Then you have to close the connection, Cassian said. How? Write her out. I reached for the archivist's quill. The moment I touched it, words burned across the floor in light. The Chronicle's voice roared inside me, 1,000 stories whispering their endings at once. I wrote, The villain loses her name when she steals another's story. The ground cracked. A scream echoed through the inner line, familiar, furious, fading. Ria's voice shattered into silence. When the dust settled, the book stilled. The light dimmed back to gold. Cassian stared at me. Lila! What did you do? I deleted her, I said quietly. Every version. The archivist exhaled. Then you've done what no alpha ever could. Cassian took my hand, awe and fear mingled in his eyes. You ended her story. No, I said softly. I rewrote it. For a moment, everything was still. Then the air shimmered. The whispers returned, gentle this time, grateful. The Chronicle inside me had changed tone. It no longer buzzed like a curse. It hummed like a heartbeat. I looked at Cassian. What happens now? He smiled, small, certain. Now we start a new chapter. Chapter 8. If you've ever fixed something only to realize you're now the one people want to destroy for it, comment, My success came with side effects. Because that's what it felt like, saving everyone and suddenly being the villain in someone else's book. By the time we left the inner line, daylight had returned. The real city looked smaller now, ordinary and oblivious, like it had never felt the tremor of rewritten destiny beneath its foundations. Cassian walked beside me, coat dark with rain, eyes darker. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was heavy. He finally broke it. The council knows what you did. I deleted the monster who wanted to enslave your world. They should be sending fruit baskets. They think you deleted balance itself. Balance sounds overrated. He didn't smile. They'll summon us tonight. You'll have to face them, I stared at him. I'm not a werewolf, Cassian. I don't even pay union dues. You're the Chronicle now, he said quietly. They can't judge you, but they'll try. The council met deep beneath the old courthouse, in a chamber carved from black stone and lit by hundreds of silver candles. The air hummed with power and accusation. 12 alphas sat in a semicircle, their eyes glowing faintly as Cassian and I stepped into the center. Cassian Drayke, the eldest one said, his voice echoing like a verdict. You broke the oath of silence. You shared our secrets with a human. She's not just human, Cassian said. Then what is she? I lifted my chin. I'm the reason you're still breathing. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Cassian's hand brushed mine, steadying, warning. Another alpha leaned forward. The Chronicle cannot live within a mortal. It is unstable. I seem pretty stable, I said. Coffee-dependent, sure, but functional. The elder's gaze cut to me, sharp as silver. Do you understand what you've done, girl? Yes, I said. I edited the story that was killing you all. You're welcome. A growl rolled through the room. Cassian stepped forward. Enough. She acted where we failed. She destroyed Rhea, the elder snapped, and with her, the old safeguards. Without them, every pack law could unravel. Maybe that's not a bad thing, I said softly. Maybe it's time your world stopped being afraid of change. The silence that followed was cold and endless. Then, slowly, the elder rose. You speak as if you own the pack's future. I don't own it, I said. I authored it. The candles flickered. The chamber trembled, as if the words themselves had weight. The elder's eyes widened slightly. "It responds to her," he whispered. Cassian looked at me. "Lila, your power. It's showing." I glanced down, the lines on my wrist, those faint silver marks from when I rewrote my fate, were glowing softly, like script beneath my skin. The air thickened with the scent of ink and moonlight. "I didn't mean to," I murmured. "Then unmean it," one alpha hissed. "Can't," I said, voice steadier now. "That's not how editing works. You can't erase truth once it's written." The elder took a step closer, his tone turning reverent. "You are the Chronicle reborn." Cassian's arm slipped protectively in front of me. "Then treat her with respect." The elder's gaze sharpened. "Or fear." The chamber lights flared white. The air cracked. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, a woman with ink-black eyes and a sigil burned into her palm. Not Rhea, another, the archivist. Except this version looked different, harder, older, eyes filled with grief. "You shouldn't have come," Cassian warned. "I didn't," she said. "You brought me." I frowned. What? "The moment you absorbed the Chronicle, you pulled every keeper who's ever touched it into you. I'm the echo that remains. The last editor before you, her gaze met mine. And the Chronicle isn't done rewriting yet." The walls shook. Candles went out in waves. My skin burned, words crawling up my arm, written in light this time. Cassian reached for me. "Lila, what's happening?" "I think it's evolving." The words on my skin shifted until I could read them. "One story must end for another to begin." "No," I whispered. "Not again." The archivist's voice softened. "It's the law of continuity. You took the Chronicle into yourself. It won't let two authors exist." I looked at Cassian. "Meaning?" Her eyes flicked to him. "Meaning the Chronicle's bond will consume one of you." To stabilize Cassian didn't hesitate. "Then take me." "Cassian, no!" He smiled faintly, like I'd just asked him to proofread something personal. "Every great story needs a sacrifice." "Yeah," I snapped, stepping toward him, "but it doesn't have to be the lead." I turned to the archivist. "There has to be another way. Tell me." She studied me a long moment. "Rewrite the law." "I thought you said that would break everything." "Sometimes things need breaking." Cassian's voice was rough. "Lila, don't—" But I was already grabbing the quill from my satchel. It burned cold against my hand, hungry. The Chronicle's energy rushed through me like lightning through water. I wrote on the stone floor, each word glowing brighter than the last. "No story demands death. It demands choice." The chamber exploded with light. When the brightness faded, the world had changed. The council members stood frozen, eyes wide, their sigils flickering uncertainly. The archivist's echo was gone, dissolved into air. Cassian fell to his knees, gasping, alive. "Lila," he breathed, "what did you do?" "I deleted the death clause." He laughed once, disbelieving. "You rewrote the pack's oldest law." I smiled weakly. "Guess I finally learned how to end something properly." The elder alpha stepped forward, trembling. "You've undone centuries of order." "No," I said, "I've undone fear." "There's a difference." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Cassian rose, his hand finding mine. "She's the Chronicle now," he said, "and I stand with her." The elder's gaze softened, just slightly. "Then so be it." The world has a new author. We left the chamber in silence, the night air crisp against my skin. The city below felt lighter somehow, like its story had been edited for the better. Cassian looked at me, his expression unreadable. "You changed everything." "I know." "You terrify me." "I know that too." He smiled. "And I love you anyway." "Good," I said softly, "because this story's still being written." Chapter 9. It started 3 nights after the council trial. Cassian and I had moved into a small loft on the river. Quiet, safe, anonymous. He wrote again, I edited again. We pretended the world outside our window wasn't still adjusting to the new laws of fate. But sometimes when I closed my eyes, I could feel it. The chronicle still breathing under my skin, restless. Cassian would trace the faint silver lines on my wrist at night, whispering, "It's over." I wanted to believe him. Then the dreams began. They were always the same, pages floating in a dark void, ink dripping upward instead of down. And in the middle of it all, a voice I knew too well. "You can't delete me. You made me eternal." Ria's voice, still alive, no, alive inside me. I jolted awake one morning, gasping. The air in the loft shimmered faintly, like heat mirage. My breath left pale trails in the cold. Cassian was already awake, leaning against the window, shirt half-buttoned, jaw tight. "You felt it too," he said. "She's back." "She never left," he murmured. "You rewrote her into the chronicle." "She's part of the story now. I was trying to save it, not give it a parasite." He crossed to me, kneeling beside the bed. His hand found mine, warm, steady, grounding. "Then we fix it." "I don't know how," I said softly. "If I erase her again, I risk erasing myself." "Then we don't erase," he said. "We finish." We went back to the archives, the ones beneath the city that had started this whole mess. The doors opened without resistance this time, as if the building recognized me. Books rustled when I passed. Some whispered my name, others whispered hers. Cassian carried a satchel of pages, my notes, his oaths, the chronicle's fragments. "If Ria's inside you," he said, "she'll try to defend herself. Don't fight her. Redirect her into what? Therapy?" He smiled faintly. "Into closure." I sat at the great wooden table where we'd first fought her. The air was thick, humming with unseen energy. I opened a blank page, dipped my quill into silver ink and whispered, "Let's end this, Ria." The lights dimmed. The air turned cold enough to sting. Her voice rose around me. "You stole my story." "No," I whispered, writing as I spoke. "I gave it context. You broke my oath. I freed it. You made him love you. He chose me." The ink flared, bright red now, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. My hand shook, but I kept writing. Cassian stood behind me, one hand on my shoulder, silent strength. "Then write me out, editor." I met her challenge with ink and breath. "No. I'm writing you peace." The page glowed, and suddenly the room filled with light. Ria's form appeared, no longer sharp and vengeful, but ghostly, hollow-eyed. She looked tired. "You don't have to haunt this anymore," I said softly. "You lost him, yes. But you don't have to lose yourself." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand love." "Maybe not," I said, "but I understand letting go." I set down the quill, letting the ink finish the final line on its own. Her name fades, not because she was forgotten, but because she was forgiven. The light dimmed, the air stilled. When I looked up again, Ria was gone. Cassian knelt beside me, breath unsteady. "You did it." "No," I said quietly. "We did." He smiled, the first true one in weeks. "What happens now?" I looked down at my wrist. The silver lines were fading, replaced by faint golden ones that pulsed softly, like light through parchment. "Now the chronicle rests. And you?" I smiled faintly. "I think I finally get to live my own story." He leaned in, forehead resting against mine. "Together?" "Always." Weeks later, the pack world stabilized. Without Ria's curses and the old death oaths, the council began drafting new laws, ones built on consent and choice instead of fear. Cassian was reinstated, reluctantly hailed as a hero. And me? I started editing again, this time under my own name. The chronicle still whispered sometimes, but not in warning, in gratitude. Every so often I'd feel a new pulse, like a heartbeat under my heart. Cassian would glance at me knowingly, that small smile curling his mouth. Our story's still growing, and I'd laugh. Plot twist. Happily ever after actually needs maintenance. Epilogue. If you've ever looked at the moon and felt like it was looking back, like it remembered your story, then this ending is for you. It's been 6 months since I rewrote the Chronicle. 6 months since the world decided to stop following rules carved in blood. 6 months since I stopped being just Lila Hart, the editor who fixed everyone else's endings. Now I write them. Cassian and I moved north, away from the city's endless heartbeat, to a house tucked against a silver lake where the nights hum quieter, older. The pack visits sometimes, half in awe, half in denial that a human authored the new laws of fate. They bring offerings, stories, letters, sometimes just silence. I accept all of them. Every tale deserves an ending. But tonight, something feels different. The moon is full, fat and gold, the kind that presses light into every surface until even shadows can't find privacy. I'm standing outside with a notebook, wrapped in Cassian's old flannel. The lake reflects the moonlight like a page waiting for ink. Cassian steps out behind me, barefoot, quiet. His wolf senses probably knew I was awake the second I started thinking too loudly. "You're supposed to be sleeping," he says, voice low, teasing. "I'm supposed to be doing a lot of things." He slips his arms around my waist, chin brushing my shoulder. "What are you writing?" "Not sure yet." I glance at the notebook. "It's been humming," he frowns. "The Chronicle?" I nod. "It's changed. It doesn't want blood anymore. It wants birth." The air trembles, subtle but real, like the moment before a storm, except softer. A silver pulse ripples across the lake, and then I feel it. A second heartbeat. Not mine, not Cassian's. Something new. Warmth spreads through my chest, radiating outward until it fills every cell, every word I've ever written. Cassian's arms tighten around me. "Lila?" I turn, eyes wet, smile trembling. "It's not a curse anymore. It's life." He stares at me, realization dawning slow and reverent. "You mean," I nod, laughing through the tears, "the Chronicle's final rewrite. It's ours now." He pulls me close, his forehead against mine, whispering, "Then let the world have a better author this time." Later that night, after he's fallen asleep, I walk back outside. The moon hangs higher now, brighter, spilling ink-colored light across the water. I open the notebook. The pages turn on their own, stopping at a blank one. A single line appears in my handwriting. Every story ends. But love is the editor who refuses to accept that draft. The letters glow faintly before sinking into the page. For the first time in forever, I don't correct a single word. If you believe love deserves a better rewrite, hit subscribe, share this with your pack, and remember, every ending is just a beginning with better dialogue. This has been Lila Hart's story, the Alpha's editor. See you next time.